Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Change Podcast. It's a beautiful Tuesday here, and we have another guest. I am your host, Nicole Harvick, and I am so excited to introduce you to this lady. She is a resilient cancer warrior. She has turned life challenges into her purpose. She is also a joy and resilience mentor. So I would like to introduce to you Alexi Bracey. Alexi, welcome to the show. How are you this morning?
I'm great. Thank you. I'm excited to be on the show.
Good, 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 good. Now, I know your cancer happened over 25 years ago, correct?
That's right. Yes.
Okay, and so you tell us a little bit about that journey? How did you discover it? What were your
Well,
thoughts, and how did you
well,
go about deciding what to do?
when I was diagnosed, I had the phone call on the phone. Phone call on the phone. The phone rang. I picked it up. The voice at the other end said, "You have cancer. We want to book you for your surgery." I would say dead silence. 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I don't know. And as I hung up the phone, I knew then in my heart of hearts I was going to beat it. I just said thank you and I hung up. I had no idea because nutrition, health, diet was totally foreign to me. A friend of mine introduced me to raw food. It was a big movement way back. I lived on the West Coast at the time. I was a chef, so I just switched hats from a traditional chef to a raw food chef hat and did a lot of research on environmental toxins, the healthy foods, did some emotional forgiveness following Marianne Williamson's Return to Love. And I never doubted myself. I just knew I was going to beat it no matter what. And so it was uterine cancer. And so the sign that was okay was another pap smear. So a year later, I must say I was more than scared to go. But regardless of what the result was going to be, I was going to continue. I wasn't going to give up. And lo and behold, for the first time in several years, my pap smear was clear. And so I just kept on that same lifestyle, did a lot of research, studies, took all sorts of certifications related to health and healing. And I started helping people along the way because everybody wanted to know what I had done. And then I moved back to Ontario. And again, people wanted to know what raw food was because back then it was a novel thing. Raw food? What do you mean, raw food? And so I started teaching food classes because everything I make, either if it's not just prepared as is, I put it in a dehydrator. So from breads to burgers to desserts to all sorts of crackers, I dehydrate. So it just basically takes the water out. So it still retains its shape and its flavor and its ingredients and its nutrients. Of course, no meat because this is plant based. And so I became well known as a plant based chef in my area. And so I also ended up teaching at the Holistic School of Nutrition, the only one of its kind in Canada, for several years, and at wellness centers and independently at chiropractic offices all over the place. And so I really loved the food part of it because everybody likes food, and it's really nutritious. It's healthy. It's eye appealing. I had studied with Martha Stewart way back in the last century, so I was really big on presentation, elegant style, and that kind of thing. So that's what started me.
Wow, that's wonderful. Now let's go back to when you first found out. What did your doctor say when you said no to surgery?
I mean, I just hung up and I said, no, thank you. And I went back for another opinion, which he basically just reread the report, which told me absolutely nothing because I had a background as a lab technologist. And I said, thank you. And I never saw him again.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, did you tell your friends about this?
Well,
Did people know that you did have the cancer?
I had just moved out west, so my circle of friends was very limited. So my girlfriend rounded up, 4 or 5 other friends, and we had an afternoon um, where we did meditations and visualizations following Marianne Williamson's work. And so my circle of friends was very limited. I told a few friends back east, but mostly I just kept quiet about it.
Yeah, because I know a lot of people still, are very much think that you immediately have to have cancer, you have to be cut, you have to have surgery. And I think by sharing your knowledge, you can open people to another pathway. And I've been doing a lot of research, and tell me if you think this is true, that a tumor is actually containing those cancer cells from flowing throughout your body.
That is true. Absolutely. And cancer is not a death sentence, it's a wake up call. And people need to understand that it's your lifestyle habits, it's your living environment that affects you. And it's just, in a sense, you could say it's a gift, it's a wake up call to do things differently, to get back on track, maybe inspire other people.
Why do you think people turn so much to chemo? Just because they've been conditioned and out of fear?
Absolutely. People think that's the only solution. They don't know any other way because they are really brainwashed by their physicians, chemo or you die. That's a fallacy, absolutely a fallacy.
Yeah, and you're living proof for sure. Because I've read that is actually mustard gas that was used in World War One.
I'm not sure, but I know they're sort of changing the ingredients now, which are actually making them even more toxic. And
Ugh.
it's the chemo that kills the people, not the cancer. Most times anyway, unless the cancer
Yeah,
has
I believe that
progressed.
as well, definitely. Yeah, for sure. And so with this journey and your talk of food, let's compare food today to food 25 years ago. What changes are you seeing, like within a processed food and dye and everything? What tell us what you've seen in your 25 years since you
No
have the cancer.
comparison. Everything is packaged, frozen, canned, quick and easy. That's the motto. People aren't spending the time to eat nature's bounty, the good things that, are grown. But unfortunately, farmers are using pesticides. We are the only species that sprays our food or sprays our crops against bugs so the bugs don't eat them, and yet we eat that food. I mean, it
Ugh,
doesn't make sense you know
yeah.
so I mean, for people that can have their own garden or shop at farmers market, I highly recommend it because they're naturally grown, natural ingredients, no sprays, no glyphosates. And glyphosates, which is Roundup, is a known carcinogen, and people are ignoring it. So breads, crackers, and anything with wheat, that's glyphosates. Pizzas, people don't realize that. Let food be your medicine, medicine your food. But our food is not our medicine like it used to be years ago. You didn't have to worry about pesticides and fungicides and the whole 9 yards. You just went to the farmer's market and everything was healthy and whole and complete. Think of the indigenous tribes or tribes and the other communities like in Sardinia or Japan. They don't have that incidence of cancer because their food supplies are healthy, wholesome, and complete. They're not toxic, they're not sprayed with chemicals like they are in North America.
Yeah, isn't that's really scary. And I'm very picky about fruit as well. I don't buy anything that doesn't have seeds because that's Mother Nature. When it doesn't have seeds, it's been genetically modified. How would you tell someone what to look for in that circumstance?
Well, there is a really great site, ewg.org, which stands for Environmental Working Group, and they have a list of what is called the Dirty Dozen or the Healthy 15. So the Dirty Dozen are the foods that need to be eaten organic, absolutely, or shopped for organic. And the Healthy 15 are the ones that you can get away with conventionally grown, even though, if possible, organic is still the best. So on the Dirty Dozen 15 this year, they come up with they update it every year. It is absolutely every single fruit on the planet you can think of that we grow in the summer: cherries, grapes, um, strawberries, blueberries, pears, peaches. So they all have to be eaten organic. The only ones that are you're safe with not eating organic are mangoes, um, bananas, and the list is pretty low. And like you said, with the fruit, you're very limited. And we want to enjoy the bounty in the summertime of the cherries and the peaches and the grapes and that, and we can't unless it's totally organic. And
Yeah.
it's very sad. It really is. Like when I go shopping in the grocery store, I just look where's the stuff that's organic or that's healthy, and my choices are limited. You know, I mean, you can get away with frozen wild blueberries. They don't have to be organic. But otherwise, blueberries are one of the worst culprits.
Wow. And it's been a couple years now, but I took my daughter and her friend on a trip, and I was in Arizona then, and we ended up in Carlsbad, California. And Carlsbad has a huge plot of land where you can go and pick your own strawberries. And I said, okay, girls, I said, let's go do this. I want you to see what a real strawberry tastes like.
Hmm.
And they're used to the stuff in the store. And we all picked a huge pot of strawberries, and they tasted it. They're like, Mom, this doesn't taste anything like I've ever tasted. I said, because it's real. It's real. So that was kind of a wake-up call for them, about what's going on. And I know they've got new things out there like a peel, which they spray on the fruit and the veggies to keep it shelf life longer.
That's
And
right.
it's like plastic. They're coating our food with plastic.
Yeah, they say that the latest studies we ingest the equivalent of one plastic credit card, or one credit card worth of plastic every week.
Oh my gosh.
It used to be every
You
month, now
know
it's
that
every week. And it's because of all the sprays on all our foods and what our food is stored in. I mean, it's just really so sad.
it is. It's scary too, because as bad as it is right now, I think it's only going to get worse.
Hmm.
I don't see a lot of pushing of health in our society anymore.
No,
No one wants to find a root cause. They just want to put band-aids on it.
that's right,
And
because
if that
health,
band-aid is surgery or,
that's
go
right.
ahead.
Doctors don't want healthy patients because they can't make any money from them.
No money.
So
It's scary, but it's true. Now, one of the things you talked about in your bio is healing from the inside out. And I couldn't agree with you more. So if someone wasn't like really aware of what's going on with our food, with our skies, with anything like that, how would you propose to them to start from the inside out?
Well, definitely start with organic food as much as you can afford. Get the EWG org dot site. They'll for a small donation they'll email you a list of the Dirty Dozen and the Healthy 15. It's like a business card size. You can carry it with you in your wallet when you do your grocery shopping. So definitely start with that. Start with healthy water because our water is so chlorinated, fluoridated, the city water. And, if you can afford it all, get a home filtration system rather than buying bottled water. I mean, bottled water is a little bit better, but then again, you're coming into contact with the plastic again. Um, the toiletries and cleaning products in your home. What do you wash your produce with? Do you use latex gloves? Again, that's plastic. Do you apply heat to the food that you prepare in a nonstick frying pan or pot? Again, that's plastic. So really be aware. So start with your food slowly, organic as much as possible. There's lots of recipes online with great sites for, healthy food, organic food. You can substitute a lot of your regular recipes with organic food. It's still going to taste really, really good. But I really stress if you change your food, your diet, but you still live in a toxic home with cleaning products, toiletries, you're not going to get healthy. One of the number one causes of breast cancer, which women don't know, is the plastic shower curtains. Fortunately now most people have the glass uh, shower installed in their home rather than with the shower curtains. You don't need that plastic, the cloth alone, because it's going to dry in a few hours. So eliminate the plastic. You don't need it. learn to read the ingredients and your cleaning products and your toiletries. Again, ewg.org is a great site to determine which are the really toxic. You don't need Javex or Lysol or Mr. Clean. There's nothing wrong with baking soda, apple cider vinegar, or lemon, just like our mothers and our grandparents used to use. You know,
Yeah.
it's just so sad. We just live, our homes are so toxic. An air filter, they say the air in our homes is more toxic than the outside air. So an air filter is really
Isn't
important.
that crazy?
I know it's, and we
That,
always,
that's scary because look at how many hours we spend in our home,
especially,
and to hear that statistic, that is frightening because I look, everyone always has thought, they've thought I'm nuts. I'm like, those are not contrails, those are chemtrails. And they're like, what are you talking about? But I want you to touch on microwaves as well right now.
oh dear, no, absolutely not. Um, put your cell phone in your microwave oven and get somebody else on their cell phone to call you. And if it rings in the microwave oven, it's leaking electromagnetic frequencies, the radiation. I tell people, years ago when I was teaching, um, I used to say, you don't give it away, you don't sell it, you throw it away. There is absolutely no reason why you need a microwave oven in your home. Absolutely no reason.
Yeah,
You
that
know,
I believe that. I'm once I started learning all this, I mean, it's still in my home because it's put up on the wall and I don't want to tear it down.
I
But
understand.
what it does to your food, it takes everything out of your food. It puts radioactive, into your body. I just don't use it anymore. I have my pans available. If I need to reheat something, I put it in that pan. Or, if I make a soup, I just keep it in that pot, put it in the refrigerator and put it back on the stove.
That's right. And unfortunately, people heat their food in the microwave oven in plastic or
Oh,
in the container that you bought it in, which is even magnifying the toxicity. I mean, it's just so sad. Like, wake up, world. Microwave ovens are thought to be a convenience, but they're not. They're a detriment to your health.
absolutely. And talk about the oceans. What's the plastic doing to the oceans?
It's killing our marine life, and they're saying the number one culprit, besides the waste from garbage and plastic bottles and all that, is the debris that the fishermen leave in the water. That's what's causing it. And so it's killing our marine life. And of course, everybody likes their sushi and their shrimp and their lobster and all that, and they're just loaded with plastic. So we're consuming the plastic that we gave them to eat in the first place by throwing
Oh,
the waste in the ocean. So it's sort of, in a sense, it's what goes around comes around. You know, this is what we feed you. Now you're feeding us the same toxins.
wow. It's crazy. And, living close to the beach as I do, I'm looking at the water now, and the water's murky. Our
Hmm.
ocean water is murky. And, I grew up in California by the ocean. It was beautiful. It was blue. And I'm like, something's going on. There's something going on.
I know.
And,
So.
if and being down in the Myrtle Beach area, we're a huge vacation community.
Hmm.
And it just we have to do cleanup after summer, you know, cigarette butts and
Oh, I
plastic,
know.
and it and I don't understand why people don't understand it or aware of it, or do they just not care? I'm really not sure what the mentality is on it, that you can come into someone's backyard and destroy the beach for the summer, but it happens every year.
I know. I think mostly, I think most of them don't know, but a lot of them don't care either. Like I walk my dogs in, in parks or into the woods and all that, and I see plastic bottles and empty food containers in the wild. Like you you can't take the stuff with you after while you're drinking and you're walking. I mean, it is so sad. And like, usually after a long weekend or like vacation places, the the debris left behind is absolutely so sad. Like people don't
Yeah.
care. They're poisoning our planet on which we need. to live on and to thrive.
Exactly, exactly. Well, I'm going to kind of switch here to your saying of heal with humor. Tell us about that.
Well, being not well is not a good place to be. And unfortunately, our world is full of more sick people than ever before. And we're always complaining and blaming about everything. We're complaining about the weather, we're complaining about the cost of food. And so that affects your frequency. So I'm a happy for no reason trainer as well. And so that's where I learned that our happiness levels are determined 90% by genes, 40% by habits, and 10% by lifestyle. So, just consider when you get up in the morning, what's the first thing in your mind? Oh, it's raining again. Oh, I have to take the car in. Oh, I have to go to the dentist. Automatically, we're already thinking about negative thoughts. Whereas I'm happy to be alive, take a deep breath, say, I'm a magnet for miracles, abundance, joy, and kindness. So, I add humor to everything I do. I approach strangers at the dog park, at the grocery store, at the ATM machine, even on Zoom meetings, and I share a joke. Why? Because everybody's going through some kind of loss, grief, or trauma. And so for 2 minutes, I have a captive audience. They laugh out loud. It feeds my soul, but it lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and raises the feel good hormones, serotonin and dopamine in your brain. And laughter has been shown to promote longevity. So I add a little bit of joy to everyone I meet everywhere I go, like I said. Smile when you're walking down the street, offer a compliment. The touch on the arm really makes a big difference. When somebody opens the door for me, it's usually a younger person. I'll say, "Is your mother still alive?" And they'll say, "Yes, she is." And I'll say, "Well, tell her she's done a good job." You know, he smiles and his mother's going to smile. So you can add a little joy to everybody's life, including your own. I really promote in the morning, look in the mirror, making eye contact with yourself, give yourself a hug. I'm happy, healthy, whole, and complete. That raises your frequency and you're going to feel a lot more joyous, depending, especially if your day is going to be very hectic and there's lots on your plate. So you can spread joy among yourselves and to other people. Another example, I have two dogs. Um, they get a lot of attention and people are petting them and they go, "Oh, your dogs are so beautiful." And I'll say, "It runs in the family." Well, so they smile. And maybe the next time they'll see the dogs, they'll remember. Or a little girl is watching me give my dogs a treat at a stoplight. A little 4-year-old girl with her with her mother, and I'll say, "Do you want to give the dogs a treat?" So I put a little treat in her hand, and she gives it to the dog, and she just gleams with delight, and her eyes are as big as saucers. She sees me 3 months later; she still remembers.
Oh,
It's just little things you can do just to bring joy into people's lives besides the joke telling, which I really love, because everybody can use a little bit of a pick me up. Because, like I said, we're all going through, challenges in our life.
yeah. And I one of the things I did is turned off the TV.
Oh, haven't had a TV in 25 years.
You are so ahead of your time. It's amazing. And I've got people like, "Well, did you see this on the news?" It's like, I don't watch the news.
No,
What do
I
you
don't.
mean? They're just I'm like, I don't like propaganda. Sorry, I don't like the news.
And it's always doom and gloom. I mean, because good news doesn't sell. Let's face it.
Exactly, exactly. And keeps people divided. And I really think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah,
They
well,
want
that's where
this
again
big division.
Well, that's again where the blaming and the complaining comes into play. What are you going to talk about? The latest doom and gloom on the news. Like for example, a little girl, a 4-year-old girl, goes with her grandpa for afternoon cookies and ice cream on Sundays. And so one particular Sunday, he's sick in bed. So he asked the little grandma to take the little girl. So off the two of them go, come back in a couple hours. And she goes running up to grandpa's room, who's still sick in bed. And he says, "How was that?" She says, "We didn't see any horses, asses, sons of bitches, tree huggers. All grandma did was wave and smile. It was really boring." So we're programmed already from a young age to look at the negative, but we hear our parents talking about negativity. So,
That's
for
horrible.
I mean, maybe some people were blessed to be raised by a grandparent or a mother or an aunt or a teacher who was very happy and optimistic all the time. But not everybody's fortunate enough than that. So we have to find and make our own joy and happiness and share it with everybody because we need this in the planet, and we'll just feel so much better at the end of the day. I think, who did I put a smile on her face? What kind deed did I do? Whose life did I change, even so slightly? And sometimes you don't even know how you may change or impact a person's life, but it doesn't matter. It's just you. It made you feel good, and for them, what you could see, they felt better as well.
That's so true. That's so true. And that's, I taught my kids, kindness is free. Just kindness is free, even if it's just opening a door or helping someone. And I remember once my daughter came and she goes, well, I helped a lady unload her groceries and she didn't even thank me. I said, that's on her, has nothing to do with you.
Yeah,
Just keep doing what you're doing,
that's right,
because
exactly.
you can't change those people. And it's funny, I was married to a very negative person and they thought they were just realistic. That's just the reality. It's like, but we make our own reality. Why
Hmm.
are you making that reality? And he used to he used to hate it because I'd walk around the house singing. What does she have to sing about? It's like, well, I'm really happy to be alive.
Yeah, well, I have, I listen to satellite radio because I like the happy music, not the doom and gloom, not the yelling and shouting and screaming and all that. And I found also, on Netflix now, a lot of the movies are sci-fi and they're war and anger and you don't see the romantic ones from years gone by. Not even many years gone by, like, the one with Demi Moore and Robert Swayze, and it just the feel good stuff, or about
I know.
animals. It
Yeah,
just our
that's so
society.
true. And I because I have Hulu, I can go find the stuff that I used to watch years ago. Like I
Hmm.
just binge watched Designing Women, which was my favorite for a very long time. And I actually laughed at the jokes. They were funny. They were not crude. They were not rude. They were not putting someone down. And watching that, I'd have lunch every day and watch episodes like 22 minutes. And it left me with a smile on my face,
Hmm.
you know.
That's right. I really
So
enjoy.
yeah, that's very, very true.
Yeah,
And
things
and you
spark.
say happiness matters.
Well, it does because we all need a little happiness in our lives because we're filled with stress and deadlines and challenges and family issues and health issues and whatever. So a little bit of happiness goes a long way. Definitely a long way. For example,
Absolutely.
several years ago, I lived in a high rise, and I would take my dogs across the street to the park. And there was a young Filipino man standing on the corner having a cigarette, and he had come to look after his brother who had cancer, taking to chemo and all that. And so um, we'd strike up a conversation every 2 or 3 weeks while he's standing on the corner for 5 or 10 minutes. And then one day he says to me that his brother had passed away, and there was a prayer circle at the
Mm.
funeral home down the street in another week, and would I attend? And I said, yeah, absolutely. So when I walked into the chapel, there were about 30 Filipino women sitting there. I made my way up to my friend. He took me up to the casket. I had never met his brother, and he explained that they were waiting to make arrangements for for the casket and the body to be shipped back to the Philippines, so the mother could be present for the burial. We exchanged a few words. I left. 3 weeks later, I'm walking down the street, and a young Filipino woman approaches me, and she says, "Were you at so and so's funeral a few weeks ago?" I said, "Yes, I was." She says, "You have no idea how your presence impacted our community."
Oh,
So you never know how you may impact someone, you know, and sometimes you never will. But I tell you, this will stay with me for as long as I live. I mean,
that's
it
really
was
nice.
a small gesture on my part, but it impacted so many.
That's wonderful. And I know we're getting near our time right now. Just can you give the audience just a few nuggets of happiness
Well,
matters?
I have
What can they do?
I have a daily resilient boost short video on LinkedIn every day. You can have a watch, and I offer little tidbits of what you can do every day to make life more enjoyable, not just for yourself, but for others as well. So, for example, we spend so much time ruminating and complaining about the past or worrying about the future. There is neither. It is the present. That's why it is a gift. The present is a gift. And then, when you're having a
Absolutely.
conversation with people that, are always complaining about this, that, or the other, show a little compassion because you don't know what's going on in their life. Offer a joke. Everybody
Exactly.
loves a joke, you know, just a touch on the arm. Oh, like I'll say to somebody, oh, that dress looks really good on you. That color looks good on me too, like hint, hint, just to make them smile. Or like your haircut, or buy the barista a cup of coffee because everybody forgets her, they're doing their job, but they need to smile as well. Um, you know, just a phone call, just to say, I'm thinking about you and I care, you know, send a physical card because everybody's texting. Send a
Yeah.
physical
Yeah.
card to compliment somebody or say, I really cherish the memories we've had. Send flowers for no reason. Walk the neighbor's dog, a senior lady's dog. Take a carless person to the grocery store to do their shopping. There's all sorts of little tidbits you can do just to make the world a little bit of a better place. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, you know, do a have a gratitude journal, and every day write in there three things that you're grateful for, but every day they have to be different, not
Ooh,
the same, different.
I like that. I like
And
that.
you'll be surprised at how many things that you took for granted that you're grateful for, or then you will make the extra effort to show a little kindness or gratitude to people. Thank the barista for making that cup of coffee. You know, there I can't remember the name of the guy. He's got a beautiful video where he had an interaction with a barista, and he says, I'd like double cappuccino latte or whatever. And she says, would you like extra cream with it? And, some sprinkles on it. And he says, yeah, sure, sure. And she says goodbye when he leaves. He's in an airport. And he says, when you come back, I want you to report to me how you enjoyed your family during the holidays. And so he walks away and he does a double take and he thinks, what's with this woman? Why is she so happy? So he goes back to her and he says, it's Christmas Eve. You're working in an airport. What makes you so happy just pouring coffee? And she says, I'm not pouring coffee. I'm pouring happiness into people's lives.
Wow. What a beautiful attitude, right?
Oh, absolutely. So, I mean, let's adapt a positive attitude and add a little bit of more happiness and joy into our lives so it radiates out to other people.
Beautiful. Well, Alexi, you have been an amazing guest and you are just a wealth of knowledge. And for our audience out there, I have got a link where you can find Alexi in the description. And as you can see, she has so much knowledge, wisdom, and just love for life. So I would say get a hold of her, reach out and get a hold of her. She would be well worth it. So, Alexi, thank you so much for being our guest today. I really appreciate it. And, I love this job because I always learn something and I am leaving happy today.
Oh, well, I'm glad. It's a great way to start the
So,
day or end the day
yeah,
wherever you are.
absolutely. Yeah. So
Right.
thank you very much for being our guest and we will talk soon.
All right. Thank you. I've thoroughly enjoyed myself as well. Thank